The Beyond the Fame podcast welcomes our newest sponsor, Adventure Theater in Glen Echo, Maryland. Audition for the pre-professional program at Adventure Theater MTC Academy. Led by a highly qualified faculty, ATMTC Academy's pre-professional program prepares talented and committed students in grades 4 through 12 for the world of musical theater and performing arts. From singing, dancing, and acting training to preparation to go on auditions, theater kids find their home at ATMTC. Visit atmtc.org. That's atmtc.org. This month's programming is also brought to you by Signature Theater in Shirlington, Virginia. Signature Theater presents Pippin, the Tony Award-winning musical from the composer of Wicked, featuring the hit songs Magic to Do and Corner of the Sky. Pippin runs now through July 26th. For tickets, visit sigtheater.org. Beyond the Fame is also sponsored by the historic Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Step into 1865. President Lincoln has been shot and the city is in chaos. As the newest deputy to join the ranks, the investigation is in your hands. Join Detective James McDevitt as you retrace the footsteps of the Lincoln assassination through the streets of downtown D.C. Whether you're a history buff, a true crime enthusiast, or just looking for an entertaining way to get your steps in, there's something for everyone in history on foot. For tickets, visit Fords.org. And of course, this podcast is powered year-round by our longtime sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Charlie Crockett on June 20th and Christopher Cross on June 26th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top artists, entertainers, and newsmakers of our time. Today is Flag Day, so we're honoring a true American hero. Pioneering NASA astronaut Eileen Collins will go down in history as the first woman ever to pilot a space shuttle, and the first woman to ever command a space shuttle mission. She joined me to explore her new documentary, Spacewoman, now streaming on Apple, Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, and Vimeo. Hey, Eileen Collins. Hey, thanks for joining the Beyond the Fame podcast.
Hi, Jason. Looking forward to it.
Oh, this is a real treat. I've interviewed, Buzz Aldrin and Christopher Ferguson, some other, famous astronauts in the past, but this is a real treat because you are the first woman to both pilot the space shuttle ever and the first woman to ever command a space shuttle mission as well. And it's all documented in the new documentary Spacewoman, which is streaming now. Was this sort of did someone from the filmmaker approach you, or did this go the other direction where you reached out to them and said, hey, I think I got a good story here, to say the least?
Yeah, well, he reached out to me. His name is Keith Haviland. He's a producer. He has done a lot of space documentary films and aviation type films, but he read my book. So I had published a book called Through the Glass Ceiling to the Stars, which is pretty much about my time in the Air Force as a test pilot and as well my 4 missions on the space shuttle. Well, within a couple of weeks of my book coming out, and this was now 4 years ago, Keith emailed me and said, I love your book. I want to make a documentary. So, I mean, it happened so fast. I said, no, I don't think so. Let me think about that for a while. And it took me about maybe 6 to 9 months to get it through my head that this might actually be a good thing to do. And I'll tell you, the final product is wonderful. I'm really happy with it. It's really, the music is tremendous, but the story is also great.
Wow. Yes. And so just so everyone knows, the Keith you're name dropping is Keith Haviland, one of the producers. I think he did Chasing the Moon and Last Man on the Moon and a bunch of stuff before Mission Control, Unsung Heroes of Apollo. But then this was directed by Hannah Berryman. So some talented folks bringing this one together. And by the way, great book title, by the way, when you were reading that. That's a great one. Smashing. What is it? Smashing the Glass Ceiling to the Stars?
Well, it's actually the book company picked the name. I was calling it Farther, Faster, Higher until I found out someone else had that name. And so the book company helped me name it Through the Glass Ceiling to the Stars.
I love it. I think it worked out in your favor. Your title was good
Oh,
too.
thanks.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, I mean, I think it's important that we're shining a light on you because I mean, everyone, you say women in space. A lot of everyone knows Sally Ride pops in, right? So we got to remind her she was the first American woman to fly in space after the pair of Soviet cosmonauts. What are their names? Valentina Tereshkova
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Svetlana
Valentina
Savitskaya.
Tereshkova.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Whom I've
And
met, actually. I met her.
really,
Yeah, she's still alive. She
when did that
flew,
happen? How'd you meet?
oh gosh, it was like she flew like in 1961. I think I was a
Yeah,
toddler back then. But I met her at two of my launches. I
nice.
flew with a Russian cosmonaut in 95 and 97, and she
Wow.
came to both of those launches, and I had a chance to meet her.
Wow, that is so cool. Well, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, see, those are some of the names from the history books people remember, but yours should be etched in there. I mean, it is, but hopefully this documentary is etching it more and more in our public consciousness in the history books, Well, I'd love to sort of, if possible, move somewhat chronologically through your life and as it relates to the documentary, at least in the brief time that we have. So you were born in 56 in Elmira, New York. Now, when I'm a movie buff, so every time I hear Elmira, I think of It's a Wonderful Life. When the bank, what is it? The tax examiner goes to George Bailey, says, "I want to spend Christmas in Elmira with my family." That's what
Well,
I
there's
think of.
actually a famous movie producer came from Elmira. His name is Hal Roach.
Oh yeah,
From
of
back in the
course.
20s and 30s, he did like Laurel and Hardy and the little kids,
Of
the
course.
those little kids.
The Little Rascals,
I forgot the
the
Little
Our Gang, the
Rascals.
Our
Yeah, he
Gang.
came.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, he came from Elmira too.
Yeah, of course I know Hal Roach. He's a legend of back in like the silent era and the early talkies.
Yeah,
But
also Tommy Hilfiger's family grew up around the corner.
really,
Tommy Hilfiger, the clothing designer, yeah, and the first African American football player that won the Heisman Trophy, Ernie Davis, is also from Elmira. So we had,
really,
and I
Ernie
could go
Davis
on,
too.
I could go on and on. There's a lot of Mark Twain. It was did a lot of his work. He's buried there, and
May have
so
heard of him.
we've got yeah, we've got a few famous people.
That's so cool. Well, but you are right up there as arguably, just as famous as all the folks you mentioned. And I mentioned Clarence getting his wings, but let's go into how you got your wings, your pilot wings. Uh, as a kid growing up, before you got your wings, did you all? I know your dad was in the Navy during World War II, Pacific Theater. But how about you? Like you subscribed to Air Force magazine and read books about space, or how did you get into? Were you always looking at the skies as a kid?
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, I learned about the Gemini astronauts when I was a little kid in school, and to me, they were just the coolest guys ever.
Yeah.
They were test pilots, they were, smart engineers, and they were going into space. So they were like my cowboy heroes, my Star Wars heroes back when I was a little kid. But
I love
I
it.
read books. I really promote reading books because it was all the books I read about pilots from like World War II, the Korean War, even the Vietnam War when I got older, and
Yeah.
the kind of missions they flew. I just wanted to be a military pilot. So I
Nice.
joined the Air Force.
Yeah. What books were those? God is my co-pilot, stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. God,
Yeah.
yep. God is my co-pilot. That's from World War II. The
Yeah.
Stars at Noon about
Yeah.
Jackie Cochran, who started the
Nice.
Women Air Force service pilots. There's
Nice.
one called Fate is the Hunter, which is about
Ah,
exploring the world in airplanes. That's more of a civilian story, but there's
cool.
so many books out there on
I love it.
aviation and space. I mean, you could spend a lifetime reading them all.
Oh, reading is absolutely important, and you've done your time in academia and military training, obviously. So I'll rattle off a little bit of it real quick. So you get your associate's degree in math at Corning Community College in '76, your BA in math and economics at Syracuse University in '78, and isn't it there where you like through their ROTC program? That's how you got commissioned to be an officer in the Air Force. Is that how it came
Yeah,
about?
yeah, that's right. Back in those days, the military academies did not take women. So ROTC was really the only avenue I had to go to
Mhm.
pilot training. And they also started taking women into pilot training about the time I graduated from college. So I was in the first wave, not the first class, but I was in the first wave of women to go to military pilot training when it was a test program to see if women could fly military
Wow.
airplanes like men. So I went to Oklahoma. I was actually in the first group of women in Oklahoma. There were a couple groups in Arizona before me, but we yeah, we were kind of we were watched very closely. Not only were we trying to get our wings so we could be pilots ourselves. By the way, there were four of us women on a base of over 500 men
Phew.
that were either instructors or students.
Yeah.
but we had to do well for the women to follow us, because if we had failed, the program would have failed. But
Nice.
of course, we all know now that women fly like men. There's
Of
really
course.
not a big deal.
Yep.
And so I think the doors open starting all the way back in the late 70s.
Yeah, thank you for paving the way. And like you're saying, not only were you doing it, but it was for all the people to follow. You had a lot riding on that. But so thank you to the four of you in that early, class in Oklahoma there. So then you like an instructor pilot there. The T-38 Talon. You moved to Travis Air Force Base in California on the C-141 Starlifter, and then eventually U.S. Air Force Academy. What is that, Colorado, as a T-41 instructor, right? Did you enjoy doing the teaching after all the years of training? Like, what was it fun to actually, give back?
Yeah. So when you teach, you learn so much more, because you learn about places where people fail.
Yeah,
I not only taught in the T-41 airplane, but I taught mathematics,
nice,
calculus, linear algebra,
nice.
aero engineering. I taught all that in the classroom too, which is how I got over my fear of speaking in front
Ah,
of groups of people, because I was not a very good
yeah,
speaker, but teaching helped me get over that. And
nice.
and from there, I went off to Air Force Test Pilot School.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm trying to think what else. So you also got a couple masters, right? Master of Science in Operations Research,
Yeah, so
Stanford.
I went to Stanford. Operations research was kind of the beginning of what we have now in artificial intelligence, with
Hmm.
these algorithms that just suck in all this data.
Yeah,
Today the algorithms teach themselves,
yeah,
but back when I got my degree, we'd actually write the algorithms to solve problems and uh, do things like that. And there's a lot of basic mathematical principles that you need in operations research. And
yeah.
so all of that helped me as I went through test pilot school and then eventually the astronaut program.
Nice. Okay, so you mentioned test pilot school. So this is USAF test pilot school, and this is, I guess, class
That's
of
right.
80. Is it 89?
Yep,
I think
that's right.
you're just the second female pilot ever to attend there either. So along the way, you're doing a bunch of firsts or seconds. You're right on the cutting edge there. That's great. And then eventually in 1990, you get chosen as a pilot astronaut for NASA. Was it Group 13? You fly the space shuttle. In 95, you fly the STS-63 mission, which included the rendezvous between Space Shuttle Discovery, the famous one, and the Russian space station. Mir. Is it Mir or Mir? Am I saying it right? Mir? Yeah.
It's Mir, M-I-R,
Okay.
Mir. It means peace in Russian.
Paint us a visual picture if our listeners, if they want to close their eyes and try to strap in, like imagine vicariously, what's it like launching out the first time?
Well, the launch itself, we had practiced over and over in simulators and centrifuge.
Yeah.
And, I was really pretty well prepared for that launch, but honestly, you'd be scared to death if you launched in a rocket and hadn't trained for it,
Yeah.
because it is such an overwhelming experience. You can hear, it's like you're a room on fire,
Phew.
and you can hear this fire burning around you, but we call it a controlled explosion.
Mhm.
Lots of shaking going on. The acceleration is 3 times your body weight.
Phew.
And I tell people, like, if you, let's say you weigh 100 pounds, if you could step on a weight scale,
Mm.
it would say 300 pounds during the launch into space.
Wow.
And so it's about 8.5 minutes. It's pretty overwhelming experience, but we are trained to focus and be
Mhm.
ready to handle emergencies during the actual launch if
Wow.
something unusual happens, a malfunction or something that's not expected.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Good. This is fascinating getting to hear all this and the 300-pound tidbit. I'm gonna carry that with me and tell my daughter that. But yeah. So and then just I know we're up against the clock, so I'll try to rattle off some of the other big accomplishments, and then we'll close out back around with the documentary. But so in '97 you pilot the STS-84. In '99 this is where you become the first. And this you've been piloting, first woman, but now in '99 you become the first woman to actually command the U.S. Spacecraft on the STS-93, deploying the Chandra X-ray Observatory. I think I said that right. And then in
That's right.
'05, yeah, '05 you command the STS-114, and that's memorably NASA's return flight after the tragic Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. So wasn't that you trying to go back and make sure everything was safe, and you did some historic 360 pitch maneuvers like to check the safety of everything, right?
Yeah, now this is where I think the film Spacewoman does, I mean,
Yeah.
it did a tremendously excellent job of portraying how we did on that return to flight mission.
Yeah.
They portrayed how we did this rendezvous pitch around maneuver, as well as many other things.
Yeah.
But this one, we actually were the first crew to flip the shuttle around completely, we're only 600 feet away from the space station, and the two astronauts on the space station photographed the underside of our wing and our tiles in the areas that we could not see. And they were looking to see if there was any damage. And we did have a small amount of damage, which we were able to fix on a spacewalk.
Yeah.
And I think the Spacewoman film really portrays that beautifully and pretty dramatically with the music and all. So that's kind of, I would say, like the peak part of the film that comes in at the end.
I love it. Thanks for teasing that. You got to see the movie, everybody, which I believe now that I know it's been sort of doing like a festival run and stuff for a while in theaters and around the places around the country. But the streaming release kind of marks I guess it marks your 20th anniversary of retiring from NASA. I guess you retired as a colonel from the Air Force in 2005, but you retired from NASA in 2006. So it's a nice synergy there. Well, Spacewoman, when you see it, I'm sure everybody's going to be like, oh, that's my favorite space documentary. I mean, there's been Goodnight Oppie and then some good ones. But so if Spacewoman is the best documentary, of course, you're biased, but you're going to pick that, right? What is your favorite space movie of like a narrative or either based on a true story or a fiction,
Yeah, without a doubt, Apollo 13. The one
I love it.
Tom Hanks plays the commander, Jim Lovell. It's a very, really good movie. And I also like Project Hail Mary, just came out a couple months ago. I love that kind of sci-fi stuff.
Great.
So I like all the space movies. It's just some are better than others.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be, Ed Harris down at Mission Control trying to be like, we got to fit this many items in this space. And it's to save it's so good. If I had to do a Mount Rushmore of like based on our true story ones, it's probably like The Right Stuff, Apollo 13. Well, I guess maybe slipping Hidden Figures in there for what it shined the light on and maybe First Man. I think First Man's underrated. The Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, and then fictional, of course, you get 2001: Space Odyssey and Star Wars and Gravity, Interstellar, all those. So anyway, those are some of mine. All right. Well, I know we're against the clock. Final seconds here. I want to end by saying, on a personal note, you can see her newborn picture when she was born, but she's now our little daughter Ada Lynn is now 6 months, a little miracle surrogacy baby. Yeah, my wife survived and is still ongoing after uterine cancer. And still doing well now. But
wow, congratulations to you. I had 2 children myself. I say it's the best thing I ever did on top of all my space missions, being a mom, or in your case, being a dad.
Yeah, I wanted to mention it, because it's a miracle of science and she's 6 months now. But most importantly, in closing, I know she's only 6 months, but she's, for whatever reason, obsessed with space. Her favorite little board book is called 8 Little Planets. She has a little, onesie, like a little pajama space suit. So what advice would you have for Ada when she grows up? And if you could, this will be long after you and all of us are long gone. But if she's listening back to this, say, if you could address her as, hey, Ada, what advice would you have to become a space astronaut?
Hey, Ada, you should read as many books as you can. Start with those toddler books and go to the library and pick out books that you're interested in. I read about horses and bugs and dogs when I was young. And then I graduated into airplanes and rockets. So read books, and it calms you down. It's good for anxiety and all kinds of things. Your imagination, your creativity. Read books.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll start with the Cat in the Hat in space and all that stuff, but for now. But and then pretty soon though, we'll graduate to documentaries like Spacewoman. We will be showing it to her, probably, and then playing this interview for her one day. But thank you so much. This is an honor. You're an absolute legend, and thank you for what you did for all women and men to follow. Men are following in your footsteps now too. So you did it for all of us.
That's right. The book and the movie are for men and women.
Oh, for
young and old.
Yes, absolutely. Again, Eileen Collins, thank you so much for joining us. You're a legendary astronaut and pilot. So everyone, check out Spacewoman streaming now wherever you stream your movies. So thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.